Mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we got to find a way to bring some love in a day. Father, we don't need to escalate. War is not the answer, 'cause only love can conquer hate. You know we got to find a way to bring some love in a day. Picket lines, picket signs, don't punish me. Brutality, talk to me so you can see what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. I want to know what's going on.
Good evening, beautiful people, and welcome to Intellectual Radio, Voices of Change. That song you just heard is by Chicago's own Dante Hall. Chicago's own Dante Hall. And it's appropriate for the show today because the name of the tune, of course, is What's Going On. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. What is going on? Because we don't know what's going on. And we're going to be examining it both ways. And as you can see, I'm here and I'm your host. I'm Jana. And I have this handsome young man next to me. He is a friend of Voices of Change and used to be a regular on it until he moved up and just doing all kind of big things. So, let me tell you just a little bit about him and the reason why I wanted him to be on the show. He has a long history as a finance professional with Cook County government, Cook County Health and Hospitals. And he's always been just an outstanding young man, always one to have an opinion that's sometime out the box. We used to sit down and discuss things, and oftentimes I'd say, "Oh man, you crazy. No, you are nuts." And I swear, months later, what he said will come to fruition. So that's how I started having him as a guest, because it was like he could see it, he could foretell it before time. Not only is he good at crunching numbers, but he's also good at examining the social state of our union, particularly Black people. So help me welcome as my host tonight as we discuss Tyre. Help me welcome Darryll. If you want to tell them your last name, D, you certainly can. It's up to you. I'm not going to give out all your business.
Oh, I'll stick with Darryll. Darryll's good.
Darryll's good, and he has an uncanny resemblance to someone else who we know who's a comedian. I'm not gonna say who it is. If he looks like if he looks like any comedian that you know that's relevant today, you can put it in the chat box. But I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to. I just want you to tell me if there's a resemblance. We already have someone that is saying, "Hey, guess who that is? You know who that is?"
Yes, I do.
Hey, sir. And Miss Gwen, who also was an executive at Cook County. Man, thank you so much for tuning in and share. And you see, someone has already told me who it is. Someone already said it. Ricky. And we really wanted to come in the studio, but now since Darryll's big time and stuff, and he moved on up, he's not even in the city anymore. He left totally, and he's moved into the big huge house. So I guess I have to drag him and tell him, way ahead of time when we want to come to the studio right on the west.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah, we're going to have to work it out because Sunday should be a time that you can do that. So tonight, as you all know, we're going to discuss the tragedy of Tyre. It's such a shame. So everyone knows I always start off with a scripture, and today it's on justice. And the scripture is from Proverbs 21:15, and it says, "When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers." Let's just hope that's absolutely true. We know the word is true and I stand on it. But we want to make sure when it's done, when it's swift, when it's done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. And we're going to kick our show off. We're not going to even, normally it's a whole lot of other things that I may do and say before the show, but we want to kind of get right into it because not only are we going to have things to say, but you're going to probably have comments to make too, and we want to address those comments. Hey, Taylor, how are you, dear? It's always good to have people, give us a shout out, give Darryll a shout out, give me a shout out. We always appreciate that. So I'm going to start out the show before we start our discussion. I'm going to start the show off first to kind of give just a briefing on who was Tyre Nichols, because you hear so much about everything else, but you don't hear much about him. So I'm going to talk about who he is, and then I'm going to show just a little bitty clip, not a lot. And where did my clip go? Just a little bitty clip on Tyre. Tyre Nichols was a photographer and a young father who loved to take pictures of the sky. He preferred landscapes and loved the glow of sunsets, mostly, said his family. He was a baby of the family, born 12 years after his closest sibling. He had a 4-year-old son, and he worked hard to better himself as a father. His creative love was photography, and on his personal creative website, he described himself as an aspiring photographer. Because of his love of skating and their love for him, they're going to be naming a skating park in honor of him. That's just a little bit about Tyre. Everyone said he was kind of quiet. He was a hard worker. Did you hear anything else about him, D?
No, actually, I haven't heard too much more than that. To be honest, it was just I didn't know anything about the young man. I haven't heard a whole lot about him, but you seem to cover the gamut here through the notes that we shared. So,
okay, perfect. And if everyone is listening to how D talks, and Mr. Winfrey's already said who he looks like, he even sounds like him with that raspy voice. Yeah, we've got to get back in the studio and have some fun. So give me a minute. I'm going to make an attempt to set this video up. And it's not one of the more graphic videos. It shows all the stomping and kicking and all that. But it kind of splits it up into 4 parts, and you're going to see what I mean. I'm hoping and praying that I can cue it up. So I'm going to cue up this video so we can kind of all see. So we can all see what happened on that fateful day. Fateful day. Let's see. And I'm attempting to cue it up right now. Let's see. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Damn, I didn't do anything. Hey, I didn't turn your around. All right. On the ground. All right. Hey, you don't do that, okay? Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Hey, yo. I'm on the ground. Lay down. You wipe your hey. Give me your hand. You might get sprayed again. Hey. Give me a fucking. Hey, I'm a 60 guy. Give me a man. Watch out. I'm gonna baton the out you. He the is. Watch out. Watch out. Yeah, Hampton don't stop. Oncoming traffic. So we tried to. I'm talking about he oncoming. Yes. Oh, this traffic. So we tried to get him stopped. He didn't stop. We still instead of trying to get him stopped, hit the siren. Stop. That man drove around, swerved like he could have hit my car. So then I'm like, God damn, man, what are we doing? He pulled up to the red light, stop at the red light, put his turn signal on. So we jump out the car. Went from there. He got man, I sure lost my flashlight. Dang.
Nah. Just the fact just the fact that they're getting a story together.
Did you notice that? And I
They're
like
getting a story together.
how this video kind of split it up in segments. But did you see how at the end how they were getting they lied together? He tried to take my gun. Did you see that?
And yet, there's no footage to support anything about the reckless driving. There's no footage at all. And he said he swerved to try to hit his car, and they caught him at the stop at the red light. Well, that don't really make sense to me. If you were doing reckless driving, why would you stop at the red light? Seeing to me, you'd continue to go on. You're that close to home.
Yeah. Wait, absolutely.
Reckless driving. So why would you stop at a red light if you was driving recklessly?
Well, they had film from everywhere. People had rings. They had film from the poles and everywhere. And there was even the police chief said there was no reckless driving. So, it was all, I think that's why when we talk about later some of the rumors, I think that's why, if they are rumors, I think that's why it happened, because you can't put your head around and embrace how 5 black men want to kill another black man in their age group, or any black man, period.
Well, I felt from the beginning when I first heard the story that they had to know this young man, because it just the type of beating that was, put on him. It was personal.
It was
that just wasn't a random, we're going to pull the cat over and he tried to resist and whatever the case may have been. That was too personal.
It was very personal, and it really hurt me as a female. I mean, it would hurt everybody, but in other clips, you could hear him calling for his mother, and he was calling for his mother because his mom was only 400 feet away. His mother's house was 400 feet away from where they killed him. So he was calling for his mother. Now, rumor has it, this is again rumor that has not been confirmed. And we know, working in a hospital for so long, we know that they can keep you on life support and keep you alive. They say actually after he was beaten, even though how many people got fired altogether, 8 or 9 people, but when he was beaten, they claim he was probably dead when they even put him on the gurney and took him in the ambulance, and they kept him alive for those couple days. But he was probably technically brain dead.
Well, some of the footage, some of the more graphic footage that I actually seen.
I don't want to show the graphic.
He was just the way he was leaning against the police cruiser, and the way it just pushed him back up, the body slumped over.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think it might have already been a scenario of brain dead. Some of the punches that I saw, with his hands tied held behind his back, and just the way that his head flung around. Yeah, I also believe that's why some of the paramedics might have got kind of caught up and fired, because they didn't render any aid. I mean, that's the basis of their job, is to save lives.
Right. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later too. We got a couple comments. Mr. Winfrey says, I bet those guys buy and sell drugs, buy and sell guns, steal cash. It's a whole gamut. And I agree. They're in that special group, the Scorpion group, that we're going to mention and talk about what the acronym really stands for. And they some of them have already had infractions anyway. We're going to mention that.
Yeah.
And
with that.
I thought that was interesting. Mr. Winfrey, again, I bet he died that night. That's what they're saying. Again, BBC, MSN, CEN, no one has said it. None of the major outlets. But how could they say that anyway? Because if that was the case and they took him to the hospital, whenever they call the time of death is when it is anyway. So, but I think a lot of people agree.
At the point that he reached, if he was brain dead, I mean, for the most part, he was dead.
Right. I mean, yeah.
But you can keep
the body
life support and just keep him going, and until they can try to figure out what direction to go with this thing, because they didn't have a clue what to do about it. The other officials had to get involved, so now we got to find time. We got to buy time.
And that's an excellent point, D, because Earl said the same thing. In his opinion, he said they probably kept him alive to protect the cops. Or maybe they were thinking about the playbook. I mean, all of us here live in the Chicago area, and maybe they were thinking about that playbook. If you remember Laquan McDonald, I mean, think about how long it took for that to be released. and all the people that fell out of that. I mean, and we have that to talk about too. But when you compare them, there is no comparison, because this police director, Sarah Davis, man, she was on top of it. She was on top of it. So let's go back and kind of slice this video up that we just saw. When you think about part one, when the police body cam footage shows a traffic stop. Have you ever seen a traffic stop where they pull you out of the car? I mean, like, it looks like they're almost pulling out the window. Is that?
And for a traffic stop, actually, there's a vehicle behind, another vehicle pulled up on the side of him. So there was two vehicles. Whereas this, they tried to swerve to cut him off.
Right.
For a traffic stop, for reckless driving. I mean, generally, you know, uniform cars they pull you over for reckless driving. So why would this Scorpion crew be pulling him over for reckless driving?
Right. You know, and
you see people driving reckless all the time. I've seen detectives look the other way as they're going on by their way, recklessly driving.
I have too. On the west side, yeah, I've definitely seen that. Well, you know, I can kind of probably slide by going 15 miles over the speed limit, and they'll look at me and just keep going. You know, so I mean, I'm just saying. So part two was a footage from the poll showed the brutal beating, because what they were trying to say, as we pointed out toward the end, they were trying to say that, you know, well, he tried to take my gun, he tried to do this, and he tried to do that. And then the little dummy got sprayed in the face because he was spraying him multiple times, not just once. There's video that shows they sprayed him multiple times.
That's all a part of getting the story together.
Yes.
That was all a part of getting the story together. When, in actuality, they didn't realize that the stationary camera was actually filming everything that was going on.
Right. So they were thinking about body cam and stuff like that. And okay, let me tell this story. Let me spin it this way, so they all be consistent.
Correct.
You know.
Correct.
So, and part three of that video showed when he was crying out. Oh, this is, you know, that always hurts me, because remember George Floyd? I think he did the same thing. His mom was gone though to glory, and he was crying her out. But this guy was crying. Mr. Nichols was crying out for his mom, because his mom, man, she was so close. If she had the door open, she may have heard the whole ruckus.
In hopes that she would hear him.
Yes. And then
I really just wonder, just on a sidebar per se, had she heard it and stepped out, just how would they even? how could they?
They wouldn't have stopped. They didn't care. They didn't even look, in my opinion.
How could they justify it?
They didn't look at him as a human.
At all.
I mean,
like I say, you say you didn't really look at the graphic part, but I mean, I looked at some of the graphic parts of it, and it just kind of reminds you of way back in the day as a youngster, just a bunch of cats beating a cat up on the corner. And
worse. Because they would beat him. Then when they tried to say, why did he run? I got so tired of this. Dialogue. I remember we were talking about it at work and stuff, and they say, well, if the police caught you, would you run? Heck yeah. Wait, they was beating my butt, and I thought there was an out. Wouldn't you run too?
Exactly. Well, you know,
it
got to a point that it just wasn't a police stop anymore.
He knew that though.
So he felt that his life was in danger, so why wouldn't he run?
This was the only way. This was the only possible way out. And when I saw how they pulled him out the car, I'm like, what the? Then part four was a body cam shows his bloody body. Not only his bloody body. Did you see how they kept propping it up? I don't know what video.
Correct.
They just
and that's what I was saying. It's possible at that point he was already brain dead because the way the body was slumped over.
And they kept propping the body up, and you just saw it. And we have another comment saying there should be a worldwide class action suit. This affects all of us. How many of us can't sleep after watching this? I mean, you talk about getting nervous. You know, we've always talked about getting nervous when the police get ready to stop you. But what impact is this having on young men and women? And I have to say, and I got to say women.
Yeah, I think
yeah, in this day and age, it's women too. So let's talk about, someone mentioned something about the police director. I think Mr. Winfrey did, but her words were, I'm a mother, I'm a caring human being who wants the best for all of us, she said. She said, this is not just a professional failing. This is a failing of basic humanity. Yes. Officers Bean, Haley, Martin, and Desmond Mills and Justin Smith were charged the very next day, 19 days after Nichols' arrest. It's a length of time that Crump said, Crump is the lawyer, of course, everyone knows he is, should be a blueprint for other police agencies to follow in dealing with similar situations. When asked about the charges, Rodney Wells told the AP that the family was okay with it and the mother felt like the police chief was doing a good job. What's your take on her? Cyril and Davis.
Well, as far as the blueprint goes, something such as this is not the first issue. This is not the first time something like this happened. So it should have long time ago been that way. But I'm thinking now, in this particular case, it was 5 black guys. It's 5 black guys. So now you have to call me swift, because think about it. All those times beforehand, when it was white guys, it took a while before anything was said one way or the other. So I'm thinking the blueprint is just the right thing, the political correct thing to say. But for the most part, it's like, okay, now we got to make an example of them.
You know, something tell me you're gonna. You know, we've always used to have these little dialogues because we always kind of have a difference of opinion, which is a good thing. Earl Winfrey probably agrees with you. He said they may get 10 times harsher treatment than white cops, and Absolutely. They should, in my opinion. In my opinion too. And I would have to agree with the fact that even though blue is one color, the color of the person in the blue does make a difference. And those were 5 black men. But
well, now since you mentioned blue, now I kind of think this whole scenario was a blue thing. You know, things are always black or white, and you put the racism card into the scenario.
I didn't mention that. Okay,
now, I know, but it's always there when it comes to these beats, because I mean, think about it. It's always been white cops beating black men,
typically.
But in this kind of scenario here, it's black cops beating black men. But really and truly, it was a blue thing. It was so bold and brazen that it wasn't about color at that particular point. It was blue because was hiding behind the badge.
And that, you know, that made me think, like Mr. Winfrey said in an earlier comment, that they've been getting away with a whole bunch of stuff. You don't come out the gate doing that. And how come nobody said, man, that's enough? Man, why don't you stop? They've been doing this. They have been. So they probably were doing some things that were so unethical that
they just hadn't taken it this far, for all we know. And no one was killed.
But how did they think they can take a young man like that and beat him like that and lynch him like that? And nothing but happened.
Well, as I said, you hiding behind the badge. Because you carry this badge, you feel you can do whatever it is you want to do, when you want to do, to whoever you want to do it to. So yeah, in my opinion, it unfortunately, but it should be some extra harshness because it was black on black crime for the most part.
Yeah.
But 5 black officers that you would go and beat another black man in such a way. So you disregarded color at that particular point. Everything for you was about blue. You put blue before everything else at this point.
That's right. They put blue, but they didn't think about being, I won't even go there. I believe that this wasn't the first time they just got caught.
They just got caught. Someone died. Or it's possible someone has died before, but it didn't catch. It wasn't on camera. It wasn't filmed, so they was able to cover it up. If they was getting their story together, then who said they haven't gotten their story together before?
Okay, so since this police director, Cyril and Davis, since she acted swiftly and it took a total of, from the time it happened to the time they were fired, it took 19 days. Shouldn't this be the precedent? Because when we go back and look at the footage of Laquan McDonald, where it took a judge has to rule that you have to release this video. They were going on and beyond 13 months. And that's right here in our city, and everybody remembers that.
Well, let's go back to that again. Let's go back to it. Every officer in that film, every officer at that scene was white.
Yes, absolutely.
Was white. So I mean, to me, that explains it there.
So you're saying because the officers with Laquan, the one who shot him 16 times, and he was hopping around like, oh, I could see that. Because he was white, that's why it took not only longer than 13 months, but it took a judge to say.
Yeah, there was pressure. And it took a long time for the pressure to get to that extreme. Rahm Emanuel was a mayor at the time, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a part of it too.
He was. I mean,
He was a part of it too. So
yeah.
they had to try to sweep it on the rug, keep it hush as possible, but the pressure got to a point that, okay, we got to get ahead of this thing, because if they get out and reach other venues and other people, and we didn't do anything about it, now everybody's caught up.
You're right.
We went to 60 minutes or something, so, something such as that.
Oh, yeah.
So they had to get ahead of this. Okay, now we don't have any choice. We got to do something.
And there was a big fallout with it. There was a huge fallout with it. To your point, Rahm wasn't mayor anymore. Gary McCarthy, who was our superintendent at that time, was fired. Cook County State's Attorney Anita Alvarez was defeated. And Rahm, of course, didn't seek re-election. And Jason Van Dyke, if you remember that name, of course, he went to trial and he was found guilty. And they also established other things. So we're hoping that there can be a positive spin. And I know they talked about it.
And another twist on why it took so long. Election season, you got to kind of keep things like that kind of quiet.
Of course, because you don't want to rock the boat. You want people to get in who you want to get in.
You want to repress it and keep it low.
Yep. And
keep it low. And once it actually came out, it was more or less, okay, look here, man, we're going to have to say something. Right. And we'll get a good lawyer. We'll work with you on the flip side and keep your sentence as low as we can keep it.
And that's just what they did. From the top all the way down, because they were even making an attempt to have the city council, who votes on compensation for the family, they tried to have them vote on $5 million without seeing a video. How are you going to tell me that I need to give the family $5 million?
Automatic cover up. I mean, and they have a fund set up for that, so they had already discussed that scenario before it even came about.
But I am still just glad that the councilman said, wait now. How do you want us to vote on this and get his family $5 million? And nobody's seen it. Ain't nobody seen nothing. Y'all gonna out the gate $5 million. So to you, that's suspect. It's very suspect.
Oh, very, very much so. And the first shot took McDonald down. It spin his whole body. The first shot, it was over with.
I saw that like 50 times because a lot of people at my church knew this little guy, and
yeah, the first shot did it. So that was overkill.
Now this is what really got to me about the whole thing. And in my mind, it makes it even worse. How can a black cop, in good conscience, 5 of them, lynch a black man? That's what they did. They could have hung him by a tree or beat him or done what they did, but how did they do that in good conscience? And you had an excellent point. When I was looking this up, there were some good articles on it. It said the race of a cop is a cop. Nobody should have needed to see a video of 5 black cops lynching Tyre Nichols to figure that out. Nichols was beaten to death by 5 black cops, 5 of who've been charged with murder. Tasered by a white cop, we're going to talk about him, who encouraged the beating. He said, stomp his ass.
He said, I hope they stomp his ass.
Excuse my language. As he slumped dying for 23 minutes until the ambulance showed up on the scene. And then the Rainbow Coalition of cops killed that man. Then a police force made up of a diverse group of people whose forebears were enslavers, slaves, and slave catchers, took to the streets in riot gear and armored personnel carriers to keep Memphis safe from people who wanted to protest the brutality of the cops. All of this should be obvious. So when black men wear blue, not all the time, we all know great cops. You have friends who are cops, I have friends who are cops. Do they just think that they're blue? They don't think that they're black? I don't believe that.
No, it's not all cops. There are those that actually just, to be a cop, it takes a mindset.
Yeah, it does. A tough mindset.
It takes a mindset. So because you see a lot, you deal with a lot, and everybody's not cut out to be. But there are those that have the job and the profession that really shouldn't be in that profession. I mean, just like it takes a mindset to carry a gun.
It does.
Just like it takes a mindset to be a cop. And some individuals get that badge, and now you feel that you're larger than life. You carry a badge and a gun, legally, lawfully.
it's kind of interesting about the mentality of cops, because I know when I was growing up in a small area, I did notice how many times some of the little guys who were bullied and who were pushed around and who were maybe smaller kind of, lift weights and did things and became a cop and were the worst a-holes out there.
The worst ones out there.
I mean, it's like, what the heck?
Now they want to inflict the bullying mentality on society that was inflicted on them.
Yes, and it's just interesting. Mr. Winfrey is busy today. You should be fired just for being a cop and saying stomp his thank you. And he was. Thank you very much. Thank
yes,
you
he
very
was.
much. But I still can't understand how black cops do this. I don't know.
Not all black cops, but
no. How
they were black, so we're going to address these particular 5 guys.
Yeah, you're right. No. Please. Thank you for correcting me. No, not all. No, these 5 black cops, and we're going to talk about them too, because everybody has a history. Everybody has things that they do. So we want to talk about them. This article went on to say, we can also clearly see that the justice system cares about the race or ethnicity of police officers. These 5 black officers were fired and charged faster than any white police officer in memory. But that just shows yet again that systemic racism in the justice system attaches to the race of the accused, not the race of the functionaries within the system. Okay. So it's accused. If you getting stopped, it's your race or my race. It doesn't matter if that functionary is white, black, or brown. Systemic racism does not require an individual to harbor hatred for another race in their heart. It simply requires individuals to participate in an already corrupt system. Not to say all systems are corrupt, but apparently that system that they were running under was corrupt, and they've probably been doing things a long time.
Well, the unit, I think the unit,
the Scorpion unit.
Yes.
They further said that, and I don't know if I agree with this. I don't know. You give me your intake. It says police exist to arrest people. One might hope that they're arresting criminals or unsuspected criminals, but it's important to remember that the very institution of local policing can trace its roots directly back to the old slave patrols and slave catchers. Studies show that even when a massive influx of cops into a city leads to a small reduction in major crimes like homicide, it comes with an explosive explosion of arrests for petty, victimless crimes, and of course, increased brutality against Black people. I would like to think that it's more strategic than that, and they just don't just exist to arrest people.
No, okay. But now that's an interesting statement though, because I mean, you just think about it over the years, it's always been inflicted on us.
Yeah, disproportionately.
It always has. So there's I think there's some legitimacy to the statement. I wouldn't say 100%, but there is some legitimacy to that.
Okay. Also,
and you think about the day and time too. You think about the day and time.
True. They also mentioned that Black people are prone to take more from public safety officers and officers because, in the hopes of our area being safe. So we're even taking more abuse because we're hoping that, but this will keep us safe. So in other words, it'll be worse for us on the west side than it will on the north side, as far as how they interact with us.
Yeah. Now I agree with that. Because you just don't even hear of incidents such as this on the north side. You don't really see as much police presence on the north side. Well, I haven't.
Well, I think they're kind of on it now because, at least downtown. Matter of fact, I noticed when I was downtown earlier this week, so many police cars downtown.
Well, you've had the smash and grabs and things of that nature. So now they have to kind of protect that.
And they are.
There's an area off of North Avenue in Sedgwick where they have police are just on the corner with flashing lights and it's stationed there.
Doing what? Oh, just sitting there?
Yeah, just sitting there. There are a lot of homes over there that's worth $1 million, actually.
That's the Gold Coast, yeah. Is that the Gold Coast?
It's right off of between Chicago Avenue and North Avenue off of Sedgwick. But there's one large building that's there. And in essence, it's a project building. but instead of it standing erected up, you just lay it's like it's laid on the side, and it covers a whole block.
I've seen it. Yeah.
And that's where they're stationed.
Wow.
That's where they're stationed. With the blue lights flashing, and they just sit in the car, just sitting there with the blue lights flashing.
Okay. Let's look at these perpetrators. Who are they? 2 of the 5 former Memphis police officers arrested in the killing of 29-year-old Tyre Nichols had been on the job for a couple of years, and the others no more than 6 years. And some of the officers had been part of a new anti-violent unit called Scorpion, which is an acronym for Street Crimes Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods.
To restore peace in the neighborhood.
To restore peace.
But you wreaking havoc. You wreaking havoc.
You're the one wreaking havoc. Isn't that crazy? Now, the first one, Demetrius Haley, 30. Before he joined the Memphis Police Department in August, he worked as a correction officer for the Shelby County Corrections. And Haley was accused of taking part in the beating of an inmate named Cordarius Sledge some 8 years ago. Sledge said Haley and another officer punched him in the face, and a third slammed him face first into a sink. After that, he said he blacked out. The suit, of course, was dismissed after a judge ruled that Sledge had not properly served one of the defendants. History. To Darius Bean, he's only 24. Bean's family was so happy when he was hired in August 2020. Everybody was so proud of him that he was doing what he loved to do. He previously worked at a fast food restaurant in Mississippi and also worked for AT&T in Memphis. From 2016 to 2020, he studied criminal justice and law at University of Mississippi and did an internship with the campus police department.
Okay, wait a minute. So he studied.
Yes.
He studied the law and this, that.
Yep.
And he still partook in a beating of this nature.
Yes.
So I kind of go back to this being a personal thing. I think this was personal.
The next one is
about the law.
I agree. Emmett Martin III was hired by the Memphis Police Department and was described by a former Bethel University classmate as one of the coolest brothers ever. Joshua Harper, who is now a pastor in Missouri, said he followed Martin on social media after they left the Christian college in McKenzie, Tennessee. He went to a Christian college, okay? I was shocked only for a second because I understood that he was a police officer, and I know behind the badge that anything can happen when anyone has power and authority. Power corrupts.
Power and authority. Once again, it goes back to having a mindset to be out. Some individuals can't handle power.
That's right. When power and authority. Desmond Mills was nicknamed Box when he played football for West Virginia State. His coach said Mills was popular and a hardworking member of the team who played center. I'm not one to be surprised at all, the coach said. But when I saw the news, I was just shocked. I've been coaching a long time, and you just never know, I told my wife. That man played for us. He was one of my team. He was hired by the Memphis Police Department in March 2017. He listed his hometown in Hartford, Connecticut. We can confirm that one of the officers, Desmond Mills, is a graduate of Bloomfield High School. They didn't want to say anything about him. And the last one, Justin Smith, he was hired by the Memphis Police Department in March 2018. They had not much to say. He's single, but ironically, he turned around and posted a $250,000 bond and was released on Thursday night. So these are the 5 men that we're talking about. This is just some historical context about them. And this is what led into these rumors. If they're rumors, I don't know. No one will confirm it. But I don't know. This is what the rumor is.
Yeah, going to rumor.
Nichols died 3 days after being brutally beaten. Put of reckless. Okay, so the rumor claimed that Nichols was dating the police officer's either ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. So I don't know, because it comes out both ways. Apparently, she's a baby mama. It may have been an ex-wife, may have been an ex-girlfriend. Either way, it was an ex. And because of that, apparently, this officer was trying to get back with her, allegedly. And because of that, he kind of targeted Nichols. Now, this story has been repeated over and over and over again, but it's not been confirmed by the BBC, CNN, MSN, CNN, none of those major outlets. So is it true? Can we validate it? No.
No, you can't. But I'll say this. Social media
Yeah, social media said it.
Where it's at.
Both of them worked at FedEx, right?
Going to work at FedEx. So could be some legitimacy to that also.
It could be. Well, I mean, you work together. You 20-some years old. I don't know.
That kind of goes back to my statement about this being personal.
Well, when I saw
heard it was personal from the beginning, long before I heard the rumor.
When I saw him pulled out the car, the rumor just, to me, in my mind, and it may be a rumor, I don't know. It just made it make sense.
It just fueled the fire.
Yes.
Because where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, and you've seen it, and I think you've heard it. You've seen it all over the place. I've seen it all over the place, everywhere but the main media outlets.
It's everywhere but mainstream media. If it is the truth, if it is, and it's all alleged at this point, something like that, I feel will come out in court.
It will sooner or later.
Or should come out in court. But again, if they was already getting it together, as far as getting their lives together for the whole scenario, who's to say that could be kind of damaging to bring something like that in court. That could be damaging within itself.
It could be damaging to who?
It's kind of hard to, the officers, number one.
Okay.
As far as that case goes, because they're going to give them the max, I would think, because it was caught on film. There's no way around it. There's no way around it.
Right.
But it can be damaging to their case. There are officers, and officers do stick together.
Right.
Blue is true to blue, either way it goes. So that's something that they might want to keep under wraps, because then it makes it premeditated.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because a lot of people were telling me, yeah, but that makes it look bad for Tyre. I said, why? He's young and single, and she's an ex.
She's an ex. And evidently she's an ex for a reason. But
right. So there's nothing wrong with him dating whoever, or flirting with whoever he wants to. Now, to your point, yeah, it would be detrimental to the case on their side.
Correct, because now that's premeditated.
Yeah.
And there's different charges when it comes to premeditated murder, because they charge him with second-degree murder.
Okay.
So now you got to bump that up if it's premeditated. And Tennessee, just sidebar here, Tennessee does have capital punishment.
Oh, what about Mississippi?
Tennessee does have capital punishment. So if it's premeditated, then that would qualify for capital punishment.
Okay. And from
So
what
something like that may stay under the rug. We don't know, because at this point it's just on social media.
And it's just right now, it's just rumors, and it kind of makes me feel in my mind, okay, it makes it even worse. But this is why this fool pulled him out. When he pulled him out the car, he wanted to kill him. The way they pulled him out the car, they wanted to kill him.
For reckless driving? Really? For reckless driving. And at the time of night that this took place, so we don't condone the reckless driving, but if so, who's on the street? Who's on the street? So who was in harmony with the reckless driver other than himself?
But none of the video showed reckless anything.
There's no footage. There's no footage been found yet.
So what did they see? Just a guy driving down the street and said, "Let's get this one."
Again.
I don't know.
It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It's personal.
I think it
was personal.
And Mr. Winfrey, you're all right. It is at this point rumors right now, but whenever someone breaks it on a major outlet, we will definitely let you know. Now,
that may not break the major outlet.
And it may not. It may not break till after everything's over. I don't know. It may not break.
That was old saying. The streets talk.
Right.
The streets talk. The streets more know. There's a lot of times the streets know more than the police.
Absolutely. I mean, a prime example, when you talk about mainstream media, so you're talking about the big ones, but when you talk about garbage media, you're talking about like a TMZ. Who gets the stories first? I'm just saying. Okay, right. Here we go. There's a Divine Nine connection. Many of the people out there are members of one of the Divine Nine fraternities or sororities, and 3 of the 5 murderers, 3 of the 5 were members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Some of the notable members of that organization include Ben Crump, the lawyer, Steve Harvey, Michael Jordan, Langston Hughes, Ricky Smiley, Shaq O'Neal, Jesse Jackson, Vernon Jordan, Roy Wilkins, to name a few. Their influence and contributions are endless. Their response to this crime, effective immediately. The fraternity has revoked the membership of the 3 former Memphis police officers and all related privileges they may have enjoyed as members of that fraternity. The officers...
That's a black eye to the Qs.
Yeah, but they bounced them. You out of here. You can't conduct yourself like that. Right. Right. The 3 officers were Emmett Martin III, Tadarius Bean, and Desmond Mills. They had their membership pulled and revoked. More fallout.
So.
A 6th officer, Preston Hemphill, that's a white guy, Memphis officer, was fired on Friday. So the fallout from the police killing of Tyre Nichols continued as 3 emergency medical technicians were terminated for their response, or should I say lack of response?
Yeah, lack of.
I guess they just, did they even do, I think they just stood there. I don't think they did anything.
And we don't know if the officers diverted them.
That's what I heard. I heard that this Scorpion team, you know how, like when you work for the county and all these organizations work together, they kind of work together and they kind of told them just, wait, stop. I really think they just wanted him to die.
Right. We got this. They show up to the scene. Right. We got this. Right. We got this. We got this. But then why would they even be called?
Oh, jeez.
Why would they even be called? But the foundation of their job, of their mirror in that industry is to save lives. Right. No matter what the officers have to say one way or the other to save the man's life. And it's possible they already saw he was brain dead. Right.
Or they probably and kept propping him up.
They kept propping him up. They kept propping him up. So it's possible at that point he was already brain dead.
Well, that's again another. Okay, guys. Yeah, I'm talking rumors today. That's a rumor too. So I don't know, but I don't know. And who would know? Like to your point, something that they'll probably never disclose. The Memphis Fire Department fired 2 emergency medical technicians, Robert Long and Jamichael Sandridge, and the fire engine driver, a lieutenant, Michelle Whitaker. She just sat in there. They were let go for failing to give the victims an adequate patient assessment. They ain't even touched the man.
And that's the foundation of their job.
Yep. And that's what they get hired to do.
That's it.
The controversial Scorpion unit was officially deactivated amid public backlash from Nicholas' death. I wonder, and I'm sure and hoping things will start coming out. I'm sure things will start coming out about other things that they did, because I am almost certain that they have done other things.
There was another case. I just happened to see a little footage of an individual that encountered them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they encountered the Scorpion unit, and he was on the verge of taking a beating, but another call came and they kind of diverted it. So I just feel come court time, a lot of different things are definitely going to come out, because there's going to be a lot of witnesses called. There's going to be other individuals who've encountered the Scorpion unit that's going to definitely be called. They're going to offer to be a witness.
Yeah.
They're going to offer. It's not the first time these guys have done this. It's
sure.
not.
I'm waiting.
It just got out of hand and someone got killed.
I'm waiting. I am waiting.
Because it was personal. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
And I'm going to stick to it too. So now since we've kind of talked about all the ins and outs of it until more information is released, it seems like things come out every other day.
This is the tip of the iceberg with this.
That's what I heard last week. Someone who I was talking to in Memphis. I was trying to get someone on my show from Memphis. And she basically said this is the tip of the iceberg. One person couldn't talk to me. The other person was so busy, I guess, interviewing and doing all that. So I opt to have the show anyway. But I think it's the tip of the iceberg too. But what do we want to happen? What do we want changed after all this? We need to
the whole discussion about change has been going for quite a while now, man. As we've seen, nothing has really happened as far as a change. So the question is, okay, what do you want? You can want, but what's actually going to be done? It's about accountability. So, and that's why I feel they're gonna make an example out of these 5 officers, and rightfully so for what they did. But they're gonna make. But it was just swift. It was so swift. White officers, it might not have been that swift.
And can't they push legislation to make it so if anything like this ever, or anything even similar to this ever happens again, that they have to release the video, they have to release this in a certain amount of time, in a reasonable amount of time, say 21 days.
It's going to take legislation, but then there's a lot of moving parts with that.
Absolutely.
Just because you put the legislation part, there's still ways around it. If they want, and look, slick is slick. Slick is slick. So if there's a way to get around it, there's a will, there's a way. And a lot of officers, we had a lot of officers to leave the Chicago Police Department.
I know.
You know, and I think a lot of officers are left because they can't continue doing the things that they've been doing. They feel that that's policing.
They feel their hands are tied, I think, a lot of them.
Yeah, some feel their hands are tied. Some just feel that that's policing. That's the only way to get it done. And some instances,
it is.
Maybe, but not this.
Right. Well, not to this extent, right?
Not to this extent. Right. I mean, some areas you have to kind of be a little aggressive because the individuals that you are dealing with are just aggressive. That's just who they are. So it's kind of like fighting fire with fire. But it's definitely going to take legislation to come up with any type of change, and I don't see that happening overnight.
What would you tell? What would you tell your son, your nephew, a young guy you were being a mentor to? What would you tell him if he was stopped by the police? What do we tell our kids?
Well,
I don't know what to tell them anymore. I mean,
it's hard. It's hard because you could tell them to go along with it, just don't resist. But as we seen in this particular case, this young man didn't resist. He was snatched out of his car.
And he kept saying, "What did I do? What did I do?
What did I do? I'm already on the ground." He was snatched out of his car by goons.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard. It makes it difficult. It's hard to say. You should tell them this. You should say that. Every scenario is different. You know, I just think you just have to kind of enlighten them on all these sort of issues, how it goes this way or that way. You know, some officers are good, some officers are bad. It's hard.
Someone said an interesting point. Do you remember Cynthia?
Yes.
How could I forget the picture? She said this whole thing is crazy and it makes no sense. Why would they put so much on the line? I guess, you know.
Well, she said we understand they was put on the line, but at the same token, these guys he was hiding behind the badge. They did not know that their stationary camera was filming, and had that camera not been there, they could have gotten away with it. Got their stories together and came up with whatever, planted anything on them. We don't even know.
That's true. And we don't know what they've gotten
away with. And from what I've heard, that particular block, everyone on the block has the Ring camera. So there's so many different angles. So there was no way around that. And the Ring cameras goes directly to the police. So it's like, okay, no, we can't get around this
one. All righty. I appreciate you again, being on the show. We are going to have to go in the studio and see Earl and
I'd like to see Earl.
Yeah, we're going to have to plan that. And Ricky Smiley, I appreciate you pretending like you're Darryll. We don't want to cause too much. We don't want to have too much ruckus. I don't want everyone to know that I know Ricky Smiley and all this and that. And it has of course been a pleasure. And I invite you back next time. Hopefully it'll be talking about something like relationships or something light and nothing this heavy, because this is very heavy. And I think Earl had something that he mentioned a lot earlier. He said, do people go to bed thinking about this? How is this impacting our psyche and our mental health? How is it impacting our kids and our young men? What is the impact of this? When you see Black men beat them down, a modern day lynching.
Well, now, how it really affects the community is there was already a divide between the community and the police force. Well, it widens the divide. It widens it. There's no other way to put it. It widens the divide. unfortunately. And you want to think that, okay, well, in your community, you want police in your community to look like you.
That's what you say, right? Because that's what I
say. But behind something such as this,
do you want to say it now?
You don't know what to say.
That's my point.
You don't know what to say. You don't know how to take it. Now, just police within themselves, either you're going to fear them or be angry toward them. What else can you do?
And this makes it so bad for all the committed young men that are cops that are out there really trying to keep our streets safe. This makes it just it makes it bad for all of us. It makes it bad for all of us. On that note, if you have anything else to say before we close out today.
No others? No one else? No one chiming in? No one's chiming in?
No one else is chiming in that I can see. Yes, you are correct. I'm not sure what you're correct about, but I'm sure she'll tell us. The light cam. This was interesting when he said what got them was that light cam.
The light cam.
Yeah, because if it would have been on the body cam, I bet they would have dropped that thing or did something or said he pulled it off. They would have said something.
Oh yeah, they were halted, disconnected, say in the struggle. It got disconnected. It got turned off, whatever. And how can you dispute that? Yeah, but
you had a really good point because oftentimes, when you go to beat meetings, you sit up and you say, we want police that are diverse and we want some of them that look like us. This changes so much. You just want good police. You don't care who they are.
That's all. It don't matter the color. If you're gonna be police, you want good policing.
You want good policing.
But this definitely widens the gap.
Yep.
This definitely widens the gap. And it's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate now when we have too few cops out there. I mean, to your point, we have more leaving than coming in the academy. Exactly. So in Chicago, even though you left us, we need
and it kind of adds to some of the scenarios with the streets of Chicago at this point, with the violence but that's another show, another talk show within itself.
And we can talk about that because it's ramped up and it's escalated, even though a lot of the young people tell me, no, it isn't worse than it was back in the day. Oh, yes, it is.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, it is. You don't even want to go out at night. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Oh, yes. And being a young man that was in the streets as a young cat, it's a lot worse now.
Oh, that's right. We can talk about that if you're open to it.
Yeah.
If you're open to it. Okay. We're going to have to plan to go to the studio and do that. And everyone have a real good night. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can share. I'm going to have this posted back on Facebook and I'll give a YouTube link too. And Darryll, once again, thank you so much. Should I call you?
Always a pleasure.
No, I'm going to keep with the Darryll. So we're going to go with that. And we're going to sign off. You guys have a great night.
Good night.